Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really interesting text called The Authority of Enlightenment and the New Kingdom. And let me tell you, it makes some pretty bold claims. It basically challenges the entire foundation of religious faith, arguing that what you follow is way more important than who you follow. So let's jump in and see how it builds its case. So the whole thing kicks off by asking a massive question. When you think about a figure like Jesus 2,000 years ago, why did people actually follow him? I mean, really, what was the draw? The answer this text gives, well, it's probably not what you're thinking, and it sets the stage for everything else we're about to get into. And boom, right out of the gate, here's the first big challenge to what many people assume. The text claims that no, people did not follow him because they thought he was the Messiah. Its reasoning is that, look, most of his followers back then couldn't read the scriptures, so how could they be following him based on prophecies they didn't even know about? The text says it had to be something much more real, something they could see and feel right in front of them. And that brings us to the first core idea the text really hammers home. It's all about authority over any kind of title. The source is basically arguing that people weren't drawn to a name or a label, but to a power they could actually witness. So, if it wasn't the title of Messiah, what was it? Well, according to this text, it was the cause he represented. People were drawn to these powerful, tangible ideas, a movement built on love, on truth, and on righteousness. You see, the idea itself was bigger than any one person. This leads us to the source's very specific definition of authority. It's not a title someone gives you or a position you hold. No, it's the demonstrated power to actually make a change in the world and to judge things based on these core principles of love and truth. Basically, it's authority you earn through your actions, not your name.
And the text is pretty clear that this isn't just some dusty old history lesson. Nope. It claims the exact same principle applies to us, right here, right now. The message is simple. Don't just follow anyone blindly. Instead, you're supposed to look at the cause they stand for and the real authority they've shown.
Okay, so from there, the source draws this really sharp line in the sand. It pits two completely different spiritual paths against each other, the path of following religious rules and doctrine versus the path of following your heart. And get this, the text just comes right out and says it. It claims that everything you may have been taught about religious doctrines, all the rules and traditions, they matter very little. They're secondary compared to that gut connection to the cause of love and truth that we were just talking about. Now, this leads to probably the most provocative claim in the entire text. As you can see, it sets up two paths. On the left, it argues that if you just rigidly follow doctrine, you're heading for ruin. But on the right, get this. It says that even atheists, people who don't believe in God at all, will enter this new kingdom if they live by the principles of love and truth. The point couldn't be clearer. What you do and what's in your heart is way more important than what you say you believe. So if just following the rules isn't the answer, then what is? Well, this next section gives us the alternative. It's a call to action, really, a call to move past just believing and start actually knowing. And here it is, the central idea of the whole thing. The text just throws down the gauntlet on the concept of blind faith. It's basically asking, why would you just believe something when you have a mind, when you have a heart, when you have the ability to go out there, investigate, and actually know for yourself? So, how do you do that? How do you get to that point of knowing? Well, the source actually lays out this four-step path. First, use both your mind and your heart. Don't separate them. Second, actively seek out goodness and enlightenment. Third, have faith, but not in a person. Have faith in the cause. And finally, the step that ties it all together, do your own research. And this is where the path leads, according to the text. After telling you to do all this personal investigation, it makes its ultimate conclusion. It claims that if you follow these steps, if you do the research, you will inevitably discover a specific individual named Lord RayEl. And the text asserts that he is the one who holds this true authority and, in its own words, can and will save the world. So that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the end game. What's the promise here? What's the ultimate outcome of following this path? The text calls it the new kingdom. So what does this promised future actually look like? Well, the text wraps up with this incredibly hopeful vision. It's a world where our suffering is finally over, a world where love and truth aren't just ideas we talk about, but are the principles that actually rule the day. That's the payoff promised for following this path of enlightenment. And so this entire text kind of leaves us wrestling with this huge question, doesn't it? It champions knowledge over blind belief, but it also asks you to have faith in a cause while you're searching. It really makes you think. In any system of belief, where do you personally draw that line between faith and knowledge? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.